Our next report is from Kelly Loofborough. She's the coordinator of the Municipal Alliance Committee of the Chathams, otherwise known as MACC.
Hi. First, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to orient yourself and hear a little bit about what we've been working on and what we feel is important and how we're spending our funding. So I will try to do this really quickly. I think the most important part of our committee is that we bring as many sectors as we can think of in our town together to specifically talk about alcohol and substance abuse. And one of the challenges for us is that we want to be very specific in talking about substance abuse. However, there's so much evidence that many people who are dealing with addiction diseases have started before the age of 18 and using substances before the age of 18. So one of the things we really try to focus on is the younger population. So with that, at a really young age, what do you do for those young children to establish the best prevention? And one of those is good decision-making, healthy choice-making, and self-advocacy. So you'll see in some of the program information that that's where we're trying to focus, as well as we support the entire community from age 0 up through our senior community. So just so you know, our committee has law enforcement, SAC counselors from the school, representatives from the faith community. We're working hard to get both St. Pat's and Chatham Day School on board. We have Project Community Pride. Senior Center now is sitting at the table with us again. The rec department sits at the table with us again, and then many parents who are involved. Just for a very brief overview of our funding, which most of you I'm sure are aware, the bulk of our funding comes from JCATA, which is the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, and then they provide 80% of the funding that is matched by both municipalities, the borough and the township, by 20%, which ends up being a little bit more specific on the next page, approximately $2,600 a year from both the township and the borough. That is all part of our JCATA and DETR grant. Then we frequently get a supplemental grant as well that comes from the freeholders, and that is something that is, our regular grant is funded from July to the following end of June, whereas the freeholder grant is January to December. The challenge with it is we don't usually get the funding until September. So we have this unique gap in funding that happens between June and September. And yet it's a key time for teenage programming, family programming. So we've been trying to work with that, and we do our best to use our resources the best we can through the summer. So as of now, the freeholder application went in, and we're supposed to hear at the end of the week whether we'll get that one for this entire year. So you'll see we're just getting the award for the freeholder grant, if we get it, in about 2 weeks. And yet it was technically a January to December grant. But that's okay. We are very appreciative of all of the funding sources we get. So we do use all of our funds to capacity, and we try to do the best we can to spread it among the different sectors. So dividing it between community events, schools, churches, any other community event that we can think of partnering with. So you'll see some of the things we did this year. We were able to have a resource table at the Suicide Prevention Walk. That was an excellent event that you all hosted, or helped host. And we have been doing more since I started in June. We've been working very hard to partner with the 2 other organizations in the area that are working on the same mission, and one is the Madison Alliance, and so we're doing more and more with them. And so in the fall we partnered to show Screenagers, which is all about kind of technological addiction and technological use with teenagers today. And that was very well attended. We had over 350 people come to see that documentary, which we are looking to bring back this fall. Then MCC is a newer organization to our towns. It's the Madison Chatham Coalition. And the nice thing about that is we are state funded, The coalition is a national organization, and the funding is coming from national sources. So their initiatives are a little bit different. So we don't have, we're very grassroots. We want to do things directly in the community. The coalition, on the other hand, is more focused on funding large campaigns that are coming across the country and focusing on data accruement. So they helped the school district do a wellness survey this year. And that's been invaluable to both us and the coalition. And all community organizations that can use that data. So you'll see the state did a new knockout opiate day, and that's something we will do again in October and stay very focused on. I won't go through the list of everything, but one of the things that really impresses me, the more I do this grant, the more I appreciate our town. Our SAC counselors are amazing in the school district. And so we partner with them all the time. And these are the kinds of messages that we're trying to get out to these kids and to the community. Dr. Lususa was here and talked about his big stressor is stress and suicide. And so we try to bring that into those are the same drivers to alcohol and drug abuse. So these are the things that we've been supporting at the middle school. Just a Little Breathing Room is a space that was created that we partnered with Chatham Education Foundation and the schools to have a place where kids can decompress and be for a few minutes during the day before they can go back out and be with peers. And I just wanted you to see some of the messaging that's on some of those walls. And the Red Ribbon Week is Drug Awareness Week. And Alex Emmer did this beautiful chalk wall and wrote, "What is your natural high?" And she had to erase it and redo it 3 or 4 times during the day. The kids really took to it, and it had the most amazing things on it. Anyway, poetry and music, and anyway, so. The other thing that the school district has been fantastic about that we've been trying to do more with, we do the usual lead evidence-based drug prevention, so very targeted information. But we've also tried to support mindfulness and mindfulness programming, and I don't know if you've known, the school district is doing Focus for 5, and that's where they're teaching the kids to take time twice a day to breathe and slow down and quiet themselves. So we believe very strongly in that kind of learning opportunity, that when you know how to calm yourself more effectively and in a healthy, natural way, as opposed to with substances, you have a much a decreased risk of addiction problems later in life. So let's keep going. So one of the things that we've been really working hard, that I've been working hard on, is, like I mentioned, bringing more people to the table. So we have met with Chatham Day School recently, and the Senior Center and the Rec Department, and we're working on St. Pat's. The next year, the survey really helped us identify our 4 main areas that we need to focus on. Granted, these look like pretty much all comprehensive, all what you would expect to look at, but very specifically it came across in the survey that we did with the students that 70% of our children, 60% of our high schoolers aren't drinking. So we're going to focus on the messaging of that, of more of your, like, you're a part of the bigger group if you're not drinking, and helping them get that message out and kind of flipping the message a little bit. However, of those 35, 40 kids who are drinking, binge drinking is a major issue. The drinking quickly before they go to an event. And so we are going to really focus on binge drinking education and how many drinks is binge drinking, and helping them understand. They seem to be rather laid back. If a peer was drinking 4 or 5 drinks, they did not see that as a lot of alcohol. And that's for the kids who are drinking. And for us, that's very problematic. And that's something we need to clarify the messaging on. Then the other thing that's been an explosion at the high school, and some at the middle school if you talk to parents, is the whole issue of vaping and e-cigarettes. So we have been hitting that hard. We're helping getting the school district signs for the bathroom, and are trying to promote that at Fishawak, and trying to encourage education of teachers and anybody in the community, parents, what the devices look like, orienting yourself to what has nicotine, what doesn't have nicotine, and the unknown risks of much of the e-cigarette and vaping issues. The vape of choice right now for most kids is one that does not have a nicotine-free option, which is concerning because nicotine is what's addictive in cigarettes. And yet 90% of the kids would say in the survey that they do not agree with smoking, and they think smoking is bad, yet they're not making the connection that a vaping device is also with nicotine. So we're going to help clarify that messaging. Marijuana has changed a lot in the last 10 years, and we're trying to make sure that people really understand that, because as laws become more lax and more people are adopting it in their state, it's allowing the children to be much more accepting of using it. And yet THC levels and change in the chemical are driving a lot of kids to addiction. We had the presentation last week by a student from Cornell who talked about how that's what he started with, just the use of marijuana, and then it took him down a very dangerous path. I'm not saying it's a gateway drug, but we're trying to impart that it's dangerous in and of itself. And then we're really to the point where we need our community to kind of take the call to action when it comes to opioid awareness. I thought the presentation that was here was fantastic, and I was really pleased that there were other community members that we were able to partner with to bring something also to the high school the following week, because people who couldn't be at the presentation that was here came to the next one. And I did recently a letter to the editor trying to just talk about some of the key figures and why this is so important. And the age of kids in residential recovery is dropping dramatically. In 5 years, we're going from 35 to 25. That's probably not a fully accurate statistic, but it's something that is that dramatic. They're really seeing a change in what's happening to our youth and young adults. Anyway, so we will take that on really hard this year. So between vaping and opiate use, we will basically shake the community. That's our hope. So I think some of the areas that we know we need to improve is becoming a resource. So partnering a little bit more with MCC and MASA and making sure our resource lists are accessible and that our website is active. Right now, it's really an inactive website, and that's just a resource issue. The problem with our committee is that everyone comes from a sector, which means they're all personally involved in other areas, and it's their job. The challenge is getting volunteers that actually can do more, and that's something we'll continue to work on. So the other thing that we're going to really try to do is use media, social media, and press much more, try to have an article every month and be a little more consistent. And then a big focus for us is youth. One of the missing pieces of our committee is youth. And so we are coming up with the idea to have CHAMPS actually. It's Chatham and Madison Peer Solutions, and they will basically be students that we can actually send to a summer camp who get trained to then be peer advocates. They've done this in other towns, and we're trying to understand what they've done and what's been successful, and then work really in our schools. There's always been SAD and some of the other drug and alcohol prevention type of organizations, but they're really very quiet at the high school and practically non-existent. So we're going to work to try to create something that's outside of the schools a little bit more, and kids from both communities, so it's a place they can go that's outside of that school environment. And then we have a whole Beyond the Basement initiative that we're looking at. So to combat that binge drinking and drinking, the #1 access to alcohol is in the home. And so we're going to take the stance of trying to get the kids out of the home, into the climbing gym, into the tennis court places, see what we can provide on the weekends. Drip Coffee is fantastic. They want to do trivia nights. We're really excited with the ways Ogden has a teen room, which is completely unused. So we're going to find all the spaces we can think of in the town and ask the kids what they want, because that piece has been missing a little bit. We've been doing programming without their voice. So I would say that wraps us up. I would really like to know what you think, if we're missing something, what else you think we need to prioritize, and how we can better serve the community.
Kelly, I'll tell you what, this is great. I was the liaison for our Board of Health for the first couple of years on committee, so had a chance to get in on the ground floor with the Madison Chatham Coalition and got to know Lisbeth and the entire 12 sectors of the community there as well. And one thing I think we can't stop beating the drum about is that eye roll you get when you talk about marijuana use. And you get the total eye roll, you should decriminalize it, it's not a gateway drug, just, everybody does it, parents do it, kids do it. And it's a really tough nut to crack when you think about it, because it's become almost socially acceptable regardless of the illegality of it and so on. I don't know how you do that, except for really, you can't talk enough about the fact that it's illegal, it's bad for you, and everybody rolls their eyes at you.
Well, and I think one of the things we're trying to focus on is fact-based messaging. So everything we're doing, like vaping, what's the big deal?
Right,
So we're
what's the
coming
big
from
deal?
that standpoint, and then just listing the facts. Marijuana, what's the big deal? And so really understanding why it's a big deal. And one of the most challenging things for parents to understand is that, I think most people know that the adolescent brain is an adaptable and vulnerable brain. However, we are seeing more and more MRI images, and we have great facts of the deterioration of the myelination of nerves and what's called neuropruning, where you're basically, your body on 2 or 3 exposures to chemicals when you're under the age of, say, 21, is so efficient and so incredibly adaptive that that's all it takes. And then it's saying, great, you provided that for me, I know you can get it, so I don't have to make that anymore, which causes all kinds of problems when it comes to dopamine and things that deal with your energy level and appetite and focus. And so we're not quite, we were hoping this year to bring like a doctor in or someone, but honestly, parent presentations aren't that well attended for the most part. So we're trying to find other ways. So we're working with Lisa Lattarulo on doing teen tips, little short video clips, things that we can try to find other ways to get messaging out.
Great.
I have another question for you. Regarding, in the MCC, we've been trying to draw in the athletic community because we are so involved in our sports. Madison is no different, obviously. To get the coaching community on board and to make them be more proactive about their athletes who are involved in binge drinking or coming to a game hungover or doing all these things. And it seems to almost be, I don't want to say a conflict of interest, but these kids are real comrades and they're out there and they're...
Well, the nice thing is, to be honest, is right now we have an opportunity. There's so much messaging about opioid use and prescription drugs that Madison last year had the MACC chair go and speak with the coaches. So when they gather the parents in the fall for the coaches and parent night, we're hoping to be there and talk about opioid use, but also talk about other substance abuse related to coaching parents and athletes. And I think accident injuries and broken bones are such a targeted path to opiate complications and misuse later that we have to get that message out right now. And so we have the opportunity to then talk about some other substance abuse issues too.
I just want to thank Kelly for coming. When I attend the MACC meetings, it's just an eye-opener to really have the representatives of all the different sectors sharing ideas, and it's really a brainstorming session that's always productive. So, congratulations.
Yes.
Pleasure having you on the committee. Yeah.
So thank you, Kelly. I again echo those comments. Appreciate the fine work that you do as the newest coordinator and all the volunteers in the organization itself. I would ask, is there, from your perspective in the Township Committee and what we're doing to support you, is anything, what else can we do to help support or echo or promote what you're doing? I think we try to get out there as much as possible, but
I think at the reality of the opiate crisis right now, the epidemic, is that any sector, any activity around it and bring it into the community is great. And then partnering together, like we were able to have a resource table here when you held the presentation. I don't care what sector it comes from or where it's coming from in the community, but making sure that we communicate with each other and getting better communication between the different organizations is really, for me, the most important thing, is just trying to keep the right email lists and linking when something is happening so that we can help disseminate what you're doing and vice versa.
great. And if parents are out there, they want to learn more about your organization, is there, you said there is a website, but it's out of date?
Yeah, I would
or-
say maybe Facebook is an easier
Facebook.
one, or reaching out directly through email at chatham.mac@gmail.com. But the Facebook, you can definitely link through Facebook to us at Chatham-MACC, and then also our website is Chatham-MACC I don't even know, .org, I think.
Kelly, is this the Elks, like the Elks Club?
Yes, actually, they have fantastic resource material. What I gave you was just some of our messaging, and I was just trying to let you see some of the resources that we provide and kind of the range of topics that we try to keep resource material on.
Their initiatives?
Yes, they actually have a specific initiative around substance abuse.
That's great.
Yeah, their materials are really good. We've been working hard to get more of them.
No, I'm just going to say an excellent presentation. I think it's wonderful that you have a focus and a priority, and you seem to, know what that is and going after it. So, which is good for the organization. So, nice job.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.